obvious, because there is a double failure. First of all, being forgotten, we are forgettable. Secondly, that culture is based on theft. So, also the outcome of Stiegler's work with Prometheus is that you can see that all cultures have a culture based on technology and industry. Fire is basically about industry. So it's not just limited to modernity. And then thirdly, I wanted to talk again, I mentioned it slightly earlier on, about disorientation and how this changes our understanding of time. So what Heidegger starts off with at the very beginning is to say that craft work is based on seasonal time, and then what happens with modernity is that we go to a completely different constitution of time, which is the pace of consumerism. And Stiegler is now arguing that it's not even the pace of consumerism, because it's so global that time has been condensed to a point where consumerism is operating everywhere at once. There's not even nightfall. So what I want to start thinking about, and I don't really have that answer, I'm not claiming to have that answer at all, but what I'm really starting to think about is how technology can, in a way, whether or not technology itself is, by its nature, divorcing us from the pace of the seasons, because that's very, very important. That's part of the problem with climate change, is that we're not actually having respect for the ecology that we live in. And because we don't have respect for the ecology that we live in, we're not noticing when climate change is creating these fundamental shifts and basically threatening the planetary ecology. So that's the first point. The second point is that we need, therefore, to return in a way to cyclic time, and this means return to the pace that the planet can actually uphold instead of the pace of consumerism. And thirdly, whether or not a new concept of time based on quantum physics rather than linear time might actually to help us to understand how entangled we are with our environment and with our ecology. So unlike modern philosophy, which divorces us from our local ecology, quantum physics actually talks about the way that we are physically, at a molecular basis, entangled with our local ecology. So our breath at one point is part of our subjectivity, and at the next point it's part of the air, and at the next point it's part of a tree. All of these things happen at once, if you like, according to quantum physics. So I think there's some real potential there to start to re-understand the way that we are embedded in our ecology, whether it be local ecology or whether it be planetary ecology, doesn't really matter. So there you go. I'm not sure what my time frames are, but if you want to chat, we can engage with those thoughts.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. I don't know if we have time for a discussion. We do. Okay, great. So if anyone has any questions for the professor, I can relate them to her, or you can simply speak and maybe the professor will be able to hear them.
Sam problem. Może ty w takim razie powiedz, że mamy 4 wystąpienia po polsku i po angielsku. Bo ja nie mogę mówić w tym momencie.
Nie możesz mieć mikrofonu. Jeżeli ja mam głośniki, nie możesz mieć mikrofonu. To mów ty,
tylko mów, że rozpoczynamy dyskusję.
Mikrofon, ja włączę swój.
Ja już wyłączyłem.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. It was a feedback loop. So Professor Ostrowicki had something to say.
We got 4 presentations and we open discussion now so that you can put the questions in Polish or in English, let please, so that maybe you have some comments, questions, let please.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions in Second Life, they can write them in the chat box. People that are here, that they can give me their questions or raise their hand.
You can go to the voice if you want, but also you can write the questions on the main chat so that we can you can write on the main chat.
Okay. Oh, I have a question about quantum physics to Professor Ruth. Frequently, quantum physics is, especially entanglement, I think it's a case of a different scale. If we operate on a large scale, the Newtonian physics are perfectly okay in describing reality and creating devices. What would your thoughts be on this?
Chyba musisz powtórzyć.
Napisała, że nie słyszy, więc muszę napisać.
Hello, I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing you. So did I hear the question right? You're thinking about the scale of entanglement as the atomic scale of entanglement as opposed to the scale of culture, is that the question?
Yeah, something to that design, that quantum physics is something that is scaled down to the nano world, so the laws of physics break down at the quantum level, which previously have been efficient for describing reality at a larger scale. So the movement of, let's say, cannonballs of light, well, this is a problem. This is where the source of the problem of quantum physics come from, is the problem of the photon. Is it a particle or is it a wave? So I was wondering if we're thinking of large-scale problems such as global warming or climate change and the Anthropocene, the impact of humanity on the world, is quantum physics the appropriate method or appropriate resource we should reach for in order to find solutions for problems which are large scale and not nanoscale?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I guess what I want to use quantum physics to think about is the fact that everything is in continuum. And by that I mean there is no disjunction between either physical items that are immediate and tiny, or massive scale items. So I think you can use, I guess what I'm doing is using the conceptual apparatus of quantum physics to rethink the separation between nature and culture. So when Heidegger, for example, was talking about modernity and the way that modernity gets shaped by this modern technological and framing of consumerism, and I didn't go into this in great detail in this paper, obviously, in such a short period of time, but what he's doing is he's thinking about the way that modern philosophy has cut off human beings from objects. Descartes does it, he's the classic. So he cuts off subjects, human subjectivity, from the object of nature. And Heidegger argues that is the justification for the kind of consumerism that we now find ourselves in. So we no longer really care about the environment. We no longer care about the cow. We no longer care about the trees or the forest. And that means that we're not at all upset to cut down an entire forest when consumerism demands it. So what I'm trying to do with this notion of entanglement and the atomic level of entanglement is to say, well, actually, we are the forest, we are the cow, we are the environment. It's not that the subject is separated from the object. We, in fact, are quantumly entangled. Our existential lives are all entangled together. And if you can conceive of that, then it shifts the ground for consumerism. It starts to mean that when we attack the forest, we also attack ourselves. And in fact, climate change is demonstrating at a much larger scale, at an evolutionary scale, that is indeed what we're doing. We attack the forest, we are attacking ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yes, I find that very lovely. It sounds also to me very familiar. I'm not sure if you have read up on, or if you're basing any of this on what some philosophers call new materialism, or the new wave of feminism called new materialism, especially since Karen Berard is a quantum physician or quantum physics expert. Who has entered philosophy and is developing her own, version of new materialism, which basically appropriates physics and then applies it into philosophy, ethics. It's an onto-ethical philosophy, and I find much of what you say in line with this discipline. And at the same time, it makes me think of the African notion of Ubuntu. Ubuntu is the idea that I am who I am thanks to who we all are together. So my identity as an individual is not necessarily mine or my property, so to speak, my right. It's something that if I attack my society, my fellow being, then I'm also then attacking myself as a person. So these are things that have come into my mind, and I was also wondering if you could add 2 or 3 words about these two ideas. Ubuntu and new materialism.
Yes, thank you. It's funny. I just came across Karen Berard not long ago, and I've ordered her book, so it's just arrived. I haven't actually read it yet, but it looks incredibly interesting, and she got there, a decade ago, so it's terrific. And funnily enough, I have had a little bit to do with South African concepts and ideas, particularly from some colleagues in Stellenbosch. But I'm a New Zealander, and so mostly I use Māori philosophy, and Māori philosophy does something quite similar with the concepts of whenua. That means, will normally get translated to mean genealogy, but actually it's a kind of taxonomy really of species and rock and strata. In fact, in some ways it means layers of strata. So I also used Deleuze and Guattari and their book, 1,000 Plateaus. I find that very useful. So those are definitely some of the strands of ideas that are contributing to these concepts. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you as well. I guess I can squeeze in a quick advertisement. I work for the Polish Journal of Aesthetics, and I'm doing a call for papers on new materialism. So if you're interested, I invite you to send a contribution.
Yeah, thank you. That sounds great. I'll do it. Aesthetics.
Can I make a question?
I might need you to, if you wouldn't mind sending me somehow your contact details, and that would be helpful.
Okay, so
a very important topic, and for me it's that some kind of answer or proof is the inactive bond, also mirror neurons. So we starting really finding a scientific proof for this. It's not only some well with some values. It's really some kind of matter of this reality. So thank you for this.
Thank you. I didn't quite catch all of that, so I'm not quite sure if I can respond to it. Would you mind saying that one more time so that I can hear properly?
Okay, I think what Liliana was trying to say is that it's not only a matter of of matter, so to speak. It's also a problem of psychology, of
I think that mirror neurons.
mirror neurons.
So we have some proof in the structure of matter that we are really feel the reaction, the emotional reaction of other people.
Okay, did you get that?
Yes, mirror neurons, yes. That's a very interesting idea, isn't it? And I think that it's very much caught up with this notion of quantum physics. You know, that up until very recently, only in the last 5 years or possibly 6 or 7 years, neuroscience has changed dramatically the way that we understand learning and perception of other people. And at the moment, nobody's really doing much work on our perception of other animals, but in fact, mirror neurons, there's no reason why it shouldn't be also working between species, particularly between mammals, which use such similar, have such similar brain setup. So yeah, there's a rich vein to be thought through in terms of changing the way that we understand learning to take place and changing the way that we understand how human beings are embedded and related to other species. And actually in my work, I'm not just looking at other animal species, I'm also looking at inanimate objects as well and how we're related to those. That's one of the reasons why I really like the idea of entanglement, is that it's not merely about a species amongst other species, it's also about a species amongst an environment, an ecology, which includes plant matter and fungi and viruses and rocks and stones and all sorts of things. But yes, the notion of mirror neurons is incredibly important and very, very useful. Thank you.
Przesuńcie się jeszcze po tym.
Okay.
Bym chciał zapytać jeszcze.
I have a question.
Okay, great.
Okay?
Yes?
Can you hear me? Yeah? What do you mean by modern philosophy? What are you referring to?
That's a very good question too, because it seems to be a shape, it seems to shift shape. Broadly, I would talk about the Enlightenment. So I take that, right back to the Descartes, in the Anglo tradition that goes through Berkeley, Bertrand Russell, is what now gets called analytic philosophy, or would be what I would regard as modern philosophy. But yes, it is a bit of a movable feast. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. There are several fields and wings, of course, in the analytic philosophy. But okay, I get it. I am satisfied. Thanks.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
And also, I think that analytic philosophy is also starting to engage with some of these ideas, particularly through
Giorgio.
early understanding. Well, I think through psychology, actually, I think analytic philosophy is opening itself up through new concepts of psychology, and so no longer quite so committed to this, divorce between subject and object. So perhaps these things will shift slightly, and it won't be the schism between continental and analytic that it has been in the past, I hope. In some ways, the two traditions are actually quite closely related. We tend to make a lot of the differences between them, but in actual fact, they're really coming out of a very similar ethos.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. We need to move on at this moment to our next speaker, and I would like to invite Professor Sandro Gorgon, how to pronounce your last name, so please forgive me. From the University of Messina, Italy, who will be speaking about the post-human anthropology of Roberto Marchesini.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I will speak.
Professor need to close down.
Oh, Professor Ruth, if you don't mind moving your avatar away from the screen, the presentation screen, to a different location, that would be great. And also, please don't forget to turn off your voice if you're not speaking. Okay, I'm sorry for that. Sandro, would you please start again?
It will not go for a context. I quite radically as a view. Often in this way, a definitive breach classical Western modern mentality, which prevalently through this breach, I want to interpret the philosophical challenge of Roberto Marquez, who had tried in the last 2 decades to elaborate a post-humanistic understanding.
Rozkazami urlop sierpniowy, bo już nie będę zatrudniona w sierpniu.
The next please. Against the instrumental interpretation of technology as a process of personalization and functionalism directed to satisfy a determinate human necessity, Marquezini proposed the concept of technomediation as an opening and interfacing to non-human otherness. From post-humanistic perspective, following curve are crucial. I will show you these 7 characters of technique. At first, technique is a dependence, able to produce new needs and to evoke a sense of efficiency. 2, technique is a questioning, a necessity of widening our cognitive horizon. It offers no answer to our cognitive failures. 3, it's a program, in the sense of emerging of new purposes and finalities, and not a means directed to reach predeterminate or only imagined purposes. 4, technique is a management, proposing and imposing new strategies and planning, and not a passive means. 5, technique is a new sensibility, a new approach to the world, which increases the interaction and conjugation between. 6, it's a flywheel, an entity which increases the involvement of man in technical settings and internalizes the. 7, technology is finally a bodily graft, an entity which provokes and modifies the somatic organism. Next slide, please. Technology is also not teleological but teleonomical, in the sense that it's not oriented by particular goals, but produces a finalistic process by modifying the somatic and psychical organization and functionality of the very similar way to nature. Darwinism is in fact a very important theoretical antecedent of the post-humanism, a theory of the merging of the form by technology produces a sort of genetic which modifies the relation between partnership, animals. Technology is then, in the traditional humanistic perspective, a specific phenotype proceeding from the 2 fundamental principles of incompleteness and pregnancy. Both these principles share the premise that it is possible to understand technopoiesis by analyzing the biological feature of man and more generally to found its cultural development on its own specific predicate. Next slide, please. Technopoiesis rejects finally the autarkic and the autopoietic nature of man and the idea central for the whole humanity. By putting in question the possibility technology in its instrumental and anthropological to prove the ontological difference at the enemy. Since man is not rooted in its biological functions, the adaptive process of the environment. According to the humanistic conception, man is the unique autopoietic and was free, practically thanks to a technology. He is free from any functional dependence to the external environment. By creating an artificial and Promethean second world, technology realized its secret intention to protect and exalt the self-referred you. Instead, the challenge of posthumanism is to permit that technomediation could open the ontological space of man and make it more and more penetrable. In our time, it becomes more and more evident that technology is not only a medium or a support, but a decisive feature of the development of human predicate. That's the great vision of the hyper-humanistic movement, which believes perfect, yeah. I'd like while the transhumanistic perspective wants to use technology as means all our dream, that one of